And I can tell you for a fact, 10 out of 10 of those calls are awesome. They really appreciate us making the calls. And right now, about 6 out of those 10 end up in a real estate conversation, even though we never bring it up because everybody's curious how this is going to impact the real estate market.
Patrick Woods, wow. Thank you a million for joining us today. We have several overachievers that are joining us right now, and I just want to make sure we are all set up, as I am the pilot of this here Overachiever Central party, and I really am so excited. So, Patrick, it's been stated that winning is becoming the person that our dreams require. Winning is becoming the person our dreams require. And frankly, you are someone in our world who is winning at so many things and with so many great people. And really, you're winning even during these changing times. So I just want to shed a spotlight on you and really just ask you a little bit about your journey in terms of your business world and your growth in real estate specifically.
Well, wow, you're saying a lot of nice things about me. I will pay you later.
I take Venmo. Thank
you. Am I on the right call?
Yes, you're in the right environment. Trust me, you really are.
Awesome. So what do you want to know?
Just let's start off, Patrick, with entering real estate and how you did create a top real estate sales team.
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and so it's interesting. I had a .com back when that was cool to say, and rode that all the way up and rode it all the way down. And so it's technology, and then I decided I want to do something easy, so I got into real estate.
Hysterical.
Yeah, Tell me I'm more. A funny guy. So I got into commercial real estate first in 2002. Then I got into residential in 2005. I started with a blue company, and then I ended up at Keller Williams. And my previous brokerage was amazing. I loved it. And it's one of those things where you don't know how good it can be until you get to where you are. And so that's kind of started on this whole journey of being in real estate, running multiple Keller Williams franchises since essentially 2006. So I ran market centers during the Great Recession. So I've sold and led during that time. And then I'm going as paraphrasing as best I can. Ended up running. So I turned one market center around, shut one down during the Great Recession. And then I also took one of our franchises to number one in all of Keller Williams for 2 years in a row, brought them up to doing over $1 billion in sales. And then I decided I would go out and do something and launch a whole new team, started that. I think the biggest thing for me is I know how to throw myself out there. If I throw myself in a sink or swim situation, I'll typically end up doing the butterfly or the backstroke. And it's just, I know that's how I operate. And so I will put myself, I know I'm a risk taker. I know I like to stretch myself and challenge myself. As weird as it sounds right now with all the craziness and uncertainty going on, this is where I thrive. This is my go time. This is where it's like, okay, give me the ball, coach. Put me in, let me run with it. So yeah, it's just how I'm wired. It's in my DNA. And so
right now, how are you showing up? Let's talk about your real estate sales team first, right? What are some of the activities that you're doubling down on in order to bulletproof, survive, and eventually thrive with your real estate sales team?
It's a question that we've been asking a lot lately, right? And is it doubling down, quadrupling down, going 10 times all in? You just have to look at where your business is, where you want it to be. And we went through this in 06, 07, 08 when the market kind of corrected. And across the country, so I coach Keller Williams franchise owners and agents all around the country. And so I'm seeing different parts of the country being in various states of lockdown and what they can and can't do. And it's kind of like, okay, well, we can't show homes, or we just have to be extra safe when we show homes, all the way to we can't show homes. we can't call, we can't reach out to our database, like everywhere in between. And so if you can still show homes, get out there and show homes, be really smart about it. I mean, there is a pandemic going on, so don't be foolish. So be really smart about it. If you can't show homes, what else can I do? Because think of it like a little kink in the garden hose, right? When you have that little kink, the pressure, the water coming out the other end slows down and it could possibly stop. But what's happening on the other side of the hose is this pressure is building up, and at some point, something's going to change, which is going to undo the kink in the hose. And we want to be in that first position when that kink opens up. And so that's where I'm focusing on with myself and my team, is to double down on the activities, maybe quadruple down on the activities of reaching out to our database. And what's interesting right now, with my team, with the agents in my market centers, it's funny because they go, "Oh my gosh, I know you've been telling us to reach out to our database for like the last 37 years, and I didn't do it, and now it feels weird."
Right. So some people just haven't been in touch, right?
Haven't been in touch, and now that this is going on, it feels really awkward to reach out now. And honestly, now is the time when our database needs to hear from us. So we're just calling through our database. How are you? Do you need anything? I'm here to help. And I can tell you for a fact, 10 out of 10 of those calls are awesome. They really appreciate us making the calls. And right now, about 6 out of those 10 end up in a real estate conversation, even though we never bring it up because everybody's curious how this is going to impact the real estate market.
Right.
And so we're finding the more calls that we make, the more real estate conversations we have, and people are still wanting to put their homes on the market right now. That's going to depend on where you are around the country. Again, if you can't put a home on the market right now, like you cannot do real estate business, what do I need to do to build a funnel so big right now that when that hose unkinks, I'm going to get a ton of business?
So true. So true. And I think, although sad but true, one of the elements that could untether that kink is unemployment.
For sure. I mean, so in all of this, so take this in all in context. If we do have a pandemic, people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of fear and anxiety. So we're having a business conversation. So I do want to put out to keep it in that context of there's real life stuff happening out there right now. And so you just go back to the Great Recession. I remember, and I'm sure I've told you this story, Dana. It's I went when the market was kind of in this weird transitional phase.
Tell me a year. What year is this?
This was right around the end of '06. End of '06, beginning of '07. And it was in this weird phase where we could take listings all day long and nothing was selling because inventory was going up and demand was going way down. And we hadn't figured out to reduce, we hadn't gone down that path where the sellers were ready to reduce prices because their mindset was still 2005.
Right.
I remember going over to my friend's house and he was having a conversation with his dad, and he and his dad were saying, well, by technical definition, we're not in a recession. And I'm watching my agents starting to have to short sell their homes. They're going through financial crises, stress on the family. And I'm just like, I was ready to come unglued when I heard that. And I kid you not, a year later, he lost his job.
Oh.
And so this isn't to be like neener, kind of like pick on him kind of thing. What was interesting was when he lost his job, it caused a whole nother thing to happen. People who lost their jobs and then had a home to sell. Mm-hmm. Right. So it caused the real estate market to boom again before the economy came back. And what the happy ending on this is my friend lost his job, and it was a job that he wasn't really excited about working. And so he ended up going back to school, getting a degree, and he's in a career that he absolutely loves now. So in all of this, whether you're on the client side or you're on the real estate agent side or both, this too shall pass. We'll look back and go, I am better because I found a way where there wasn't a way.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Yep. So good. So good. So if it's not on our calendar, it's not.
If it's not on our calendar, it doesn't exist. And I think right now you've got to be so relentless with your calendar.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information coming at us right now. We saw the data on the unemployment. 3.3 million people filed for unemployment in the last week. The highest before that was 1982. It was like 660,000 people. And I think that's because we hit a pause button and shut all these businesses down right away. And so we're going to see that. And those people will probably get pulled right back into work as soon as the dust settles with the pandemic. And so we've got to keep it all in context, and we've got to be focused on our big rocks right now. And I think that's what's maybe a little bit of the blessing, is that we're starting to realize what really matters and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go around my neighborhood, so I had to drive down to sign checks for my market center, and I'm leaving and I'm seeing people out working in their front yard with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm seeing things that I haven't seen in my neighborhood ever before, because everybody's,
Yep.
checking their phone and playing video games and stuff like that. So I think we're really learning when we talk about top 20%, we're really getting clear on our top 20%. We're okay with this other stuff falling through the cracks, because
Right.
it's just not that important right now.
Right. And we know that the top 20% of our focus yields and literally creates 80% of our true dollar productive results. Right. So, absolutely. I love that. And so I feel like in this environment, with the energy of the panic, I think the fear, right, is just as contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, the people that you're in business with, it's a good time to do an alignment check.
Yep.
What's in your brain about that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you've got to choose who you surround with. All these things that we hear, they are the sum total of the people you hang with, right?
right.
I mean, we wouldn't let our kids just hang around with anybody. We're going to make sure that they're good kids and they have good parents, because we want our kids making good decisions. And so we've got to hold ourselves to the same standard. Sorry, all these topics I get really fired up about. So we absolutely need to do that, and especially now, because again, there's so much fear, so much anxiety. And I saw Mary Beth throughout here. It's been the quiet that we needed to reconnect with being human and in relationships. And that's you think about it, everybody talks about virtual and telecommuting and all that kind of stuff. How many Zooms have we done in the last week? How many FaceTimes have we done? I've sat in my backyard with my iPad on FaceTime, having a glass of wine with friends I haven't talked to in a year.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's this, who we hang with makes a big difference. And that doesn't change. So I think a lot of things are getting put under a magnifying glass right now. And so I think, just like anything in life, when we get these aha moments, how do we hang on to them and not forget them as the dust settles? Right. So I'll share a quick story. My not to go sad, my sister passed away, right, a while back, and what I asked to keep out of her stuff, one of them was her guitar, her bass guitar.
Wow.
And so I have this in my office as a reminder to always keep, because somebody passes away, there's hard to find purpose in something that is so hard and crushing like that, and something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I said, I'm going to make it my purpose to hold on to, because we all go through life events and we go, reprioritize everything. And then we get back to normal and that kind of wanes. And so I said, I'm going to honor my sister every day by not letting it wane and making the most important things the most important things. And so that's why I have this guitar in my office. So when it's 5:30, I look at it and I go, I'm not where I should be right now. I should be with my family, because when something like that happens, you go, my family's the most important thing. That last email I needed to send was not the most important thing. And so that's why I have this in my office, is just to do that. And so I think the challenge is, when the dust settles from all of this and we've kind of put those things under the magnifying glass, how do we not lose sight of that? How do we hang on to it and not get back into our old routines?
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Patrick.
Absolutely.
That's so vulnerable and so such a significant loss. And what an amazing visual to have, right, in your homework environment. That's really.
It wasn't my market center, and so when you become an OP, they kind of kick you out, and so I brought it to my home office.
Right. So your OP role, operating principal,
yes.
Operating partner, right? How did that even happen? So you have this rockin' sales team, super profitable, having fun. By the way, you're still showing up for your sales team. Is that right?
Oh yeah, and more so now than I have in years, right? I looked at people like Cody Gibbs and I go, I want what he has. I want to be able to sell 172 homes and never put a buyer in my car. Maybe he's got some special mojo that I don't have. And I just know that people, for me, I'm not willing to ask somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
Okay.
So, and when the times get tough, like right now, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's all in. And if you ask any one of the agents on my team, in my offices, if you talk to my coaching clients, I think that all of them would say, yeah, Patrick is 100% all in
Yeah.
right now.
Yep. I
So,
can attest to that. High five.
yeah.
I'm a high fiver from 6 feet away now.
Yeah.
So remind us,
High five.
high five, high five.
Yep.
Remind us too, by the way, your actual geographic market. We have a lot of agents. I'm just looking through the roster. We have North Carolina with us right now, Florida, Central, Northern New Jersey, near New York City. We have the Shore. We have a lot of different ATL in the house. So where is your sales team?
So we're in Sacramento, California. So we cover kind of that whole geography. The market center that I own is in Elk Grove, which is just south, and I live in Roseville, which is just north. So we kind of, my home and my office bookend the capital of California.
Awesome. Good. So referrals, no shade, no shade.
Exactly.
Right. So
yep, right there.
Yeah, I like it. What's that? Let's see it again. Yeah, Patrick Woods Group, PW. So how did you encounter owning a business worth owning in terms of having equity and ownership in the actual brokerage?
Yep. So I think the big thing, and I get asked this a lot because people jump into certain roles and then they'll say, "Oh, that was really hard," or you know, this person didn't help me or didn't support me, and all that kind of stuff. And I went through. So I shut down a market center. I turned one around. Then I got the opportunity to go take one to number one. And it's because I hung in there and did what most people weren't willing to do. Right? When most people have said, "This is too tough, I'm going to go back to sales." And trust me, the thought crossed my mind a lot, especially when I was in sales and I was watching people that I ran circles around doing more than I was, making more money than I was in a short time. And the thing you got to think about is, are you playing that finite game or are you playing that infinite game? And because I did what most people weren't willing to do, I got to align myself with the right people that said, "Hey, I don't want to lose you." And they started giving me ownership based on, and so some I had to buy. They worked out terms that worked for me, and some I earned in. And so, but trust me, I earned it too. I worked my tail off for it. And then to become the OP, here's what's kind of interesting. You start getting little bits and pieces of businesses. I started trading those bits and pieces like baseball cards. I said, "I'll trade you this many shares in this market center so I can get this many shares in this market center." So I essentially took the ownership I had in all these market centers and I consolidated it into one, to where I own a big chunk of that one market center. And now I have control over my future. So I'm not beholden to somebody else to decide, "Hey, we're going to do distributions," or "We're not." Right? I have complete control over that business. And so I have multiple streams of income. And the reason why I did that is because to me, it creates freedom. It's all in real estate. So that's all my eggs are in that basket. And it gives me a little bit of freedom to be more creative. And it gives me more flexibility in times like this where I could say, "Okay, I need to not take as much from this piece. I've got this one to keep things going, but I want to make sure I retain my staff over here so I could take less over here." So it just gives me a little bit of flexibility in times like this.
Sure. Well, it makes perfect sense too. You have a sales team thriving in your market center. Your market center earns money regarding real estate sales as well. You have residual. You coach. How did
Coaching real estate, right?
So you coach leaders, big significant empire builders, right? So talk to us a little bit about leading leaders, and then I'm going to ask you to tell the Mo story. There's a Mo Anderson story that you tell that's just amazing.
You have to remind me of that one. So how do I lead leaders? It's interesting. It's because everybody, you just look at it and you go, "Okay, if I'm running a sales team and I have 3 people on my sales team, that's one thing. If I'm running just myself as a solo agent, that's a whole other thing." So it's a progression. It's like, think of it like a staircase of getting more efficient and succeeding through others. And what you're doing when you do that is you become, instead of addition, you become multiplication.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing will happen with your income, right? Because you're, like Gary Keller said, "Before my feet hit the ground in the morning when I get out of bed, my team has already wiped the mat with your team, because I have a bigger team than you." and I have better people than you, right? So he's borrowing those 24 hours that all those other people have and providing for that, and it's allowing him to move further and faster. And so leading leaders, I mean, that's a challenging question because not all leaders are created equal.
Right. Well, I don't know anyone, and I'm going to borrow this concept from Ben Kinney. I honestly don't know anyone who could lead at a high level and they're leading mediocre people.
Yeah, or
Right.
if they're not willing to grow themselves,
Right.
right? It's law of the lid. Typically, somebody with a low level lid on their leadership ability is not going to attract somebody that has a skill or talent or leadership ability up here. So
Right.
we've got to be constantly growing. And so that's for me. The other piece is knowing behavioral, like honestly, knowing behavioral profiles. Because when you're leading certain people, so I have a coaching client, and I know he's super competitive. I could call him up and say, "Hey, Kathy's beating you this month. How'd that happen?" And that's all I have to say, and now he's off and running,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
there's other people where it's sometimes I just have to put my arm around him and encourage him. And so it's just knowing what causes people to tick, and the only way that you're going to figure that out. So I guess the easy answer to this, or part of the answer to this, a lot of agents will say, you know what, I'm not going to build a team because I'm just not really great at managing people.
Yes. Talk to that, please.
Well, you can't make one hire and not do, and then have that person not work out and go, that's it, I'm done. Like imagine you lost your first listing presentation. You clearly have lost, if you've been in the business for any point in time, you've lost out on a listing presentation. Like you didn't went there, you did your best and you did not get it. And you
Right.
did not throw your entire real estate career out with that.
Right.
Right? And if you've been in the business 10 years, I guarantee you're better at a listing presentation today than you were on your first one. And you had to screw up a few along the way to get really good at it. So don't be afraid to screw up in your leadership skills because that's how you get better. It's actually the times like this that make you stronger.
It's so true. So, to that, in terms of a rainmaker on a real estate sales team, can you just talk to what's real value in terms of retaining your team members? I don't know who in the room needs to hear this.
Well, one, they've got to see the value of being on the team. They got to see the value of being in business with you. And I always look, so I paint a vision for where my businesses are going,
Hmm.
and I will put that out in front of people. So it's not just about selling houses. It's about if you really crush it, how can we be in business on a much deeper level together? Let's go buy a house together. Let's invest in a business. Let's create a business together. And so we'll map that out. And only out of everybody I brought on my team and into my world, there's only one or two people that we're actually doing that with right now because those are the ones that earned it, right? And so it's a process, it's a progression. So I think on just a real estate team, what are they looking for? They're looking for leadership. They're looking for somebody that's going to get in the trenches with them. They're looking, we'll be honest, they're looking for leads, and leads on my team you've got to earn. We're just not going to give them to you.
Hmm.
And so there is that piece of it. So I don't want to say, hey, okay, it's just all leadership and coaching and all that kind of stuff. They want to close deals too, but they have to see the value. And the other part is the authenticity, and that's what we're seeing a lot right now. Is
Hmm.
people being really vulnerable and authentic. Like,
Yep.
hey, we don't know where this is going to go. We just know it's going to come to an end at some point. And we
Right.
know the best next step to take, and we're going to take that and we're going to bring you with us.
Hmm.
And I think people are really receptive to that conversation right now. Maybe not at the highest levels, but I don't know about you. I've never been through this before.
Right.
I just know what I need to do right now and what the next step is, and I'm going to bring everybody with me.
Yep. I think it's bringing that traction, right?
For
Like
sure.
John Maxwell tells us, because a pandemic is a distraction, frankly. And when you have traction, you have focus, and the focused will thrive, right?
Yeah, and going back to the counter thing, like I am relentless on my counter right now because that's what keeps me focused and it keeps my head clear and keeps me in action. So for the thing I've told my coaching clients on my coaching calls, I don't get to just say, I don't feel like having a call today. People are paying me money to be there and show up full on, full out at that time. So I've got to. And what's funny or what's interesting is as I make a call and then I have my next call, my energy actually goes up and up and up. Right. So same thing. If we just say, you know what, I need to reach out to my database right now. You'll make one phone call and you'll go, wow, that actually filled my bucket and gave me energy. Now you're going to have more energy for the next call. And you're going to leave your day going, I am exhausted and my bucket is full.
Yeah, your bucket's full. You left it all on the court, right?
Yeah. You're gonna have good mojo because if you go home like that, where you're worn out from playing all out all day and having people pour into you because you're pouring into them, you're probably going to be more receptive and more present with your kids and your spouse, right? As opposed to leaving going, wow, I really didn't get a lot done today, and beating yourself up. You're probably not going to be in a great mood when you get home. And then you're listening to all the news and you're going to be exhausted from that. So
exactly. Amazing. So true. I think investing the time to the people that really matter, I feel like it's the gift of time. You hear a lot of people, talking heads out there, say time is money. Time, I feel like we're in agreement, is not money, because you cannot make more time. And somehow we have this gift of more time right now, right? So time is priceless.
That's been the interesting thing for me. And I know we're getting close on time. That's been the interesting thing for me, is to look at this and go, okay, my stress is I'm reaching out to landlords to say, hey, can we work something out to make sure that we're all in this together? And then my stress is making sure my agents are taken care of. My kids' stress, they don't get to see their friends today. Right? And it's just good perspective to have, is that, you know what, as much stress as I'm going through right now, this is just another day to them. Their stress is that they don't get to see their friends. And that's how it should be for them, honestly. And I have to respect that. And I can't bring my stress from here to their world right now.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. So let's wrap on this. The quick Mo Anderson story is when she was consulting with an agent in her day. Say it again?
The income one?
Yes.
Okay. So Mo Anderson, and I love this. There's so many great Mo Anderson stories, and this one's
Mo Anderson's role is.
Gosh, they say if Gary's the brains of Keller Williams, Mo is the heart.
Yeah.
And so she was the vice chairman of the board for Keller Williams. She was a former CEO. She was a person when Gary Keller had taken it to a certain level and kind of messed it up a little bit. She came in and cleaned it up and took it to the next level, where then we had other CEOs come in and take it beyond, and now Gary's back. So Mo Anderson was asking an agent, said, so tell me, what are your goals? What are your dreams? And he said, well, I just want to make enough money to take care of my family. I want to make enough money to take care of and provide for my family. And she goes, darling, I can't do the Oklahoma accent. She goes, darling, that is the most selfish answer I've heard. And he was kind of taken aback. And she goes, why would you only want to make as much money to take care of your family when you can make enough to take care of so many other families as well? And so that goes to when we start talking about things like profit and all that kind of stuff, when we're talking about pandemics and people losing their jobs, we got into this business to make a profit, not just to do cool things with our families and for ourselves, also to make a difference. And so when we're making more money, we can live more abundantly and we can take care of other people. So I thought it was a great conversation to call somebody out just for thinking a little too small. Sure,
because we all want to think bigger and do better and be better. So wow. So this has been a session from Overachiever Central, and Patrick, I am so grateful for your time and pouring into us. And, this one-on-one has been remarkable. So I just, from the heart, want to thank you and give you a high five. High five, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
It's
great to Zoom meet you.
Right? It's great to Zoom see you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, have a blessed day, rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you guys on Facebook.
Have an outstanding one. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.